let's see, I got to approve a couple of things here. All right, so here's our agenda for today. You guys should all be able to see it, and I'll start the slideshow before I start talking about our financials and stuff. But I'd first like to introduce Rebecca Jackson. Dr. Jackson's our vice president, and she had a few words of support and thank you, I think, that she wanted to give us before we officially got started. Dr. Jackson.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, we just wanted to take a brief minute. About this time of year, we review financials, review how the annual conference went, and we just wanted to take a moment during our meeting and pause and just express our gratitude and thank all the participation for the last year. As you will see, as we start reviewing our financial stuff, we had a really great year this year, and the participation at the annual conference was pretty amazing. We had over 200 people register. So we just wanted to say thank you for all your support to CMDA. And then just, short of sounding like a NPR fundraiser, just also make the plug that if you find CMDA to be beneficial and helpful to your practice, that you would extend a welcome to other people who are practicing in our space to come and join us. The more members we have, the more ability that we have to promote education, and we have some ideas for some really great opportunities in the next few years. So any other additional support and recommending us to other people would be fantastic. Invite people to come and join us every month. So thank you for all you guys do and all the work you do every day and for being part of our CMDA family.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Is Leah, are you with us? There's so many names now, I can't find you. Leah, are you there? We can't hear you if you're speaking.
Looks like she's unmuted, but we can't hear her. She's fixing her mic.
Okay. Rebecca, if your mic doesn't get fixed, Leah, maybe Rebecca can kind of fill us in on what you had.
Yeah, we can talk a little bit. Okay, that's what we're going to do. Sorry, you got to listen to me for a few more minutes, y'all. So if you have been the last couple years, the national organization did make a name change. So instead of being AMDA, they changed to PulpMed, which is more, they felt like it was really important because the people that serve this space are more than just physicians, right? It's not just medical directors anymore. We have a really amazing ability in our space to work with interdisciplinary teams, and they felt it was really important to make sure that people were representative of that, and so hence the name change. So they are looking at making recommendations for the state organizations as well to make name changes that is kind of more in that vein and more inclusive. I think it's interesting. Ours is the medical society for post-acute long-term care, but I think a lot of people still refer to it as CMDA. So we've been talking about that as a board, and we are looking at joining the national efforts to kind of look more towards a name change here locally. And so as over the next year, you'll probably see some co-branding, maybe some logo changes and those kind of things. And so we just wanted to bring that up and make sure that we weren't surprising anyone when you start seeing these things come forward. But we felt like it was really important to support our national organization too. So that will be coming in the next year. Was there any other key items that I missed, David?
I don't think so. I think that was it. Leah, is your mic working now?
She said not cooperating.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, so we're going to try to keep doing the same things that we're doing now, but you may see a different name and you may see some rebranding. So just kind of making people aware, I think. And our next update will be from Mr. Fear. Are you with us, Mr. Fear?
Are you asking me?
No, Chad Fear.
Oh.
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now, man.
All right. Yeah, so I just had a few things I think to share with you all. I always like to go through some of the recent citation trends. And I think, pretty much there is a pretty consistent pattern, not only with what we're seeing in Colorado, but across the nation. Um, Trends include citations for abuse, infection prevention, accident hazards, quality of care, ADL care for dependent residents, sanitary food services, dignity. We're seeing, I think, an increase in significant medication errors, medication storage, and professional standards. And with some of the changes that had happened in April, we expected maybe to see more professional standards citations, but in looking back, I think they're falling much in line with the same types of concerns over professional standards that we were seeing before. So we're not necessarily right now seeing an increase in professional standards related to things like consideration of the medical director, and how the medical director's role impacts other care areas. I have picked out a couple tags that I want to start kind of watching, and one of those areas is chemical restraints. And that was, there's added focus to that with the move of unnecessary psychotropic medications under that regulatory area. And when I went back and I looked at the nation for federal fiscal year 24, we saw 20 citations. In Colorado, there were none. In 2025, to date, there have been 172 citations, which have been about 1.2% of providers. And looking at Colorado, we've cited chemical restraints 4 times, and we're about 1.9%. So I don't know the difference between the national percentage and our state percentage is statistically significant. But that's something I want to, continue to keep an eye on to see if we're seeing an increase in that particular regulation as it relates to unnecessary psychotropic medication, looking at the relationship of the antipsychotic and diagnoses of schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder. So we'll be watching that. Immediate jeopardy trends. We've had 21 immediate jeopardy situations for federal fiscal year 25, and they continue to fall in some of the same main categories: resident to resident sexual abuse, protection from physical abuse, resident to resident, elopement. We had some accident related swallowing, so food textures and the like. Some immediate jeopardy situations related to that, some significant medication error situations that rose to the level of immediate jeopardy, and then failure to respond to significant changes of condition and pressure facility acquired pressure wounds that were related to lack of interventions. Right now, just to let you know, we've had quite an increase in complaints and facility reported incidents that we've had to go out and investigate. Several weeks ago, we ran some numbers, and we've had 96 complaints or fries that have risen to the level of immediate jeopardy, not necessarily cited, but investigated under those triage levels. Non-IJ high, so if the allegations are substantiated, harm had occurred. There were 716 complaints, and non-IJ medium 276. So all total, we've had over 1,100 complaints and fries this federal fiscal year. And we find that remarkable when we look back at the previous years, several years average, and we were averaging between 700 and 750. I think that's probably a result of the fact that we are processing and triaging fries at a much more timely rate. So, the more we process, the more we go out and investigate. And also, we're just getting a large number of complaints and reported facility incidents. As a result, we've experienced a number of facilities that are now overdue for the recertification survey. And we're working on some things internally so that we can provide some bandwidth and start to catch some of those up so that they are more timely. Did want to send out a reminder that this coming Wednesday, the 6th, from 1 to 3, we're going to hold the Nursing Home Licensing General Rule Update Stakeholder Meeting. There will be a Zoom option in addition to an in-person meeting that will take place on the CDPHE campus. That'll be in Building B, Room B1E. And if you want to attend in person, come to the reception desk in our Building A to sign in, and then we'll help folks get into Building B. I will put the link and the address and room for the meeting in the chat when I'm through here. And then just wanted to add one last piece. We're no longer using the Aspen suite as the automated survey process environment. And as of July 14th, we're now using a cloud-based system referred to as the Internet Quality Improvement Evaluation System, or IQES. As you might expect, we've experienced and we continue to expect some growing pains with that. But I really believe we're going to be able to look back on this and recognize how much better and more efficient this system is. So again, I'll put the link and the room and building in the chat for the upcoming meeting. Oh, that's tomorrow. For tomorrow's meeting.
All right, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's see, Jenny Albertson, are you with us? Do you have any updates?
I am. I have some slides to share.
You should be able to share them.
Okay,
We'll see.
give me just a second. I'll be quick about these, and I've already sent a PDF version to Sing so you can share it around. All right, there we go. Get this in the slideshow version here. There we go. All right, couple of things on the national stage that I want to make sure you all are apprised of. Come on, it's catching up with me. Here we go. First off, a couple of state updates. There were some questions coming across from our members, and I don't know if this has come across your desks or not, but I want to be sure that you're clear on the definition of a COVID outbreak as they updated it back in April. I know this is kind of old news, but because it's been confusing for a few folks, I just wanted to put this reminder out. It is out on my blog as well. The main area of confusion is that staff members are no longer a contributing factor to a definition of the actual outbreak. They are simply a contributing factor to the need for a further investigation for an outbreak in the resident population. So this is different than historically. And so I've outlined it for you there so you don't have to pull the mitigation guidance again. It's an excerpt for you at your fingertips. Behavioral health support has been something that I think all of us have desired more intensely to be provided. And CMS a couple of years ago decided that they would allocate a majored grant to an outside agency to provide us with the Center of Excellence for Behavioral Health in nursing facilities. Unfortunately, that was a time-limited grant, and CMS is no longer going to be funding it. As of September 29th, they will run out of grant funding. So this has been a web-based program that our facilities can access on-demand training, webinars, live consultation on care planning for behavioral health with actual social workers. It's been a national support. As you can see from that green section there, they've done a lot of work to support our specific sector. And it is specific to nursing homes. And so it's really frustrating that this is going away particularly because the CMP, the civil money penalties that we pay, when they implemented this, they took away the ability for us to ask for grant funding through our CMP grants for anything behavioral health related. And so they completely changed that grant program. My guess is they aren't going to be real timely by September 29th to reverse that decision when this expires. So we're going to be left with no additional funding access for behavioral health supports and no additional behavioral health support system remaining out there. There is a significant need for this. I wanted to put this little blurb about the 30% of nursing home patients having psychiatric diagnoses, but also consider that most of our funding is through Medicaid. And when you look at Medicaid population, that percentage hikes up to 40%. It's a significant need. We need to be loud about it. So when we have options for advocacy in this area, I'll be keeping you apprised. And then a couple of other tidbits just to close us out here. CDPHE is looking at updating some public health information for respiratory guidance, particular to assisted livings. Unfortunately, we are not going to see an update on the SNF guidance because that's dependent upon CDC making changes. But when it comes to AL, it's very much at the discretion of our local health department, and they are including me and other stakeholders in the discussion of how to update that respiratory outbreak guidance for assisted living settings. And then also they are including us in discussions about updating the reportable disease guidance. They made some wonderful changes to that. They're working extremely hard at it. And the main takeaway for this is that it will reduce the burden on the facility to be the reporting entity for reportable diseases and put it back on the diagnosis element, so labs or the provider. So that should reduce some burden as well as add some clarity. And then again, on the national stage, I think many of us are aware of ICE raids and immigration enforcement. It is starting to bleed over into healthcare, even though we were supposed to be kind of protected. What we're seeing is that when people lose their visas, we're losing that worker, or we're seeing I-9 verification show that people do not have valid work credentials. We have always followed this procedure for I-9 validation, but since people are kind of moving targets right now, we're asking our members to check their visa status of their workers more often. And we also have the potential for ICE raids coming into healthcare facilities. It is starting to happen both at nursing homes, hospitals, and clinics. And so we're hosting a lawyer-led webinar on August 7th. If you want to be part of that, you're welcome to talk about what our state and local laws are as opposed to federal requirements for cooperating with ICE officials. And two other elements of offering for you all that might be pertinent for your particular role. We are offering a suicide risk in elder care webinar coming up on the 13th. Suicide risk in elders is second only to teenagers in our country as far as a population sector. And this will include regulatory guidance. CDPHE is supporting us with this. Thank you, Chad. And also we have the Association for Suicide Prevention giving us global training on how to help our staff as well as our residents with suicide risk. And I know I personally have been impacted by this multiple times in my communities, so I'm sure you're not a stranger to it either. And then please join us at our fall convention in September. Plan to put that on your calendar. We really do want to see you all represented there. We'd love to have you with us. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Jenny. Let's see. So I guess you guys are seeing my screen again as well. Yeah, so next we've got a study opportunity from University of Colorado. Dr. I'm going to not say your name correctly, so I apologize. I'll give it a shot though. Dr. Mustafa Ozkaynak.
That's pretty good. That's
All
pretty
right.
good, actually.
I'll take it. So he's going to give us a little update here. So the floor is yours, Mustafa.
Thank you. Do you mind if I share a few slides?
You should be able to. Let me see if I can make you. Yeah, go ahead. And you may have to ask, but go ahead.
Perfect. So thank you very much, everyone. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to present here. So I just want to talk about a brief study. Well, not brief, but important study. It's about implementing technology, preventing falls, and improving staff wellness. And we are recruiting sites so that we are recruiting nursing homes, skilled nursing facilities, as well as assisted living facilities for this study. And I just want to talk to you about a little bit about study. And if you are interested in, like if your site is interested in participating part of the study, this is minimum burden study. I would appreciate your support. So this study is funded by Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality last fall, so that about 1 year ago, actually, before a bunch of changes happened. So this is a 3-year project, and then we are gonna take very little time in the facility, so that most of the work that's supposed to be done will be in our campus. So the aim of the study is to improve resident and staff outcomes by implementing technology that focuses on 2 problems: resident falls and staff burnout. And then just like all other research studies, this is a volunteer-based study, and then we will provide financial incentives to participants. So our study has 3 phases. So that the first study is about understanding workflow in nursing homes. So technology has been heavily used in many acute care settings, but and we know that the workflow plays a very important role for the success of technology. And what we learn in terms of technology implementation in acute care settings cannot be directly translated to nursing home settings, mainly because the context in nursing home is very different. So that's the reason this study starts with understanding workflow in nursing homes, and then making sure whatever technology is implemented is safely and effectively implemented, and it shows the impact it's supposed to have, the technology impact supposed to have. So we are gonna first study with studying workflow, and then we are gonna implement 2 very light technologies, and then we are gonna do evaluation and check-in. So these are the 3 phases. So without getting too much details, in phase 1, which we hope to start this fall, will include conducting some observations, doing some passive data collections through a smart tags, and we wanna do interviews, so that all these 3 approaches will allow us to understand workflow in nursing homes. And again, there are some numbers here in terms of number of people we will recruit, that we will be targeting. And if there is any questions, I will be happy to answer at the end. But again, the phase 1 of our study will be understanding workflow in the facility. In the second phase, we are gonna implement 2 very light technologies, so that we are not gonna interfere with any existing technologies in the facilities, but we are gonna temporarily put iPads in the nursing stations, and then some simple sensors in participating resident rooms for 2 purposes. One purpose is, so again, there are 2 technologies. The first technology is we are gonna predict individual fall risk for residents, and then we are gonna show this risk to staff members, and then that's the scope of the study. We will just show the risk, and then that's what the technology will do. And then the second technology will be staff wellness technology, so that we will conduct some surveys, and then some quick updates, and then these updates will allow us to show the burnout risk for employees or staff members, and the users of the second technology will be administrators. So again, 2 technologies. First one is to predict fall risk, and the users will be staff members, and the second technology will be predicting burnout risk for staff members, and users of this technology will be administrators. So that these are 2 technologies which are some of them are already used in acute care settings, but again, the idea here is to implement these in long-term care facilities or nursing homes. So, and then the third phase is, again, this is like we want to do this in summer and fall of 2026, so that the 1 year from now, because the workflow study, studying workflow and the analyzing data is going to take time. And then the third phase is we are going to evaluate the technology, which is going to be in the winter 27. Yeah. And then,
Okay.
So any questions? I'm sorry.
So if we have questions or somebody wanted, I'm sure you probably have some kind of a summary outline that you could provide for people that want more.
Oh, definitely, definitely. If I'll be happy to provide, there's a 1-page summary PDF file. I'll be happy to send it out to anyone is interested in. And also I'll be sharing my email at the end. I'll be happy to answer any questions through email as well. So first of all, we really want to collaborate with the settings that we are working on, the communities, and then the way how we design this study is community-based, and we welcome any input. And then we also want to make sure whatever we do is useful to the facility as well, so that we care about community engagement. But it's very important for us also that we don't bring any burden to facilities as well, so that we have specialists. So this is a big team that I didn't show the team members, but this is a big team, and we have experts to facilitate community engagement and to make sure our the burden we are there's like very minimum.
Okay. We have some questions here in the chat too. Do you have more, or do you want to take questions now?
Sure. See. Okay, so how will you measuring the staff burnout? That's a great question. So that there are some surveys, and then we are gonna have a baseline survey, which is gonna take about 20 minutes to fill out at most. And then we are gonna do bi-weekly check-ins by asking only few questions to staff members, so that's gonna allow us to. So the short answer is through surveys, and then we will also collect some. So I can say surveys. First there's like the 15-20 minute survey, and then bi-weekly 3-4 questions survey, so that the baseline survey we are gonna use Maslow's survey, so it's validated inventory. And the update surveys, actually, we are currently still working on it, but it's going to be a few questions.
Okay.
So how far regionally are you looking at for sites, so that we have budget to do some travel, so that it doesn't have to be in Denver area, so that if it is a rural area, we welcome participation in rural areas as well. Can be measured with tags, so that's a great question. We are collecting data, 3 different approaches on workflow: observations, tags, smart tags, and interviews. So the tags are gonna show where staff members spends time during their shift, so that's going to be, so that then we will come up with kind of a spaghetti diagram that shows the staff movements during the shift, so that's type of information tags are going to provide us. But we will also do observations and interviews to contextualize this spaghetti diagram, so that it's a kind of tags are going to provide us quantitative information, but we will do observations and interviews to collect qualitative questions as well. So I think these are all questions. Oh, so turnover is an issue with the same staff member. That's
there's quite a bit of turnover.
Great question. That's a great question. So that in fact, the reason why we were able to get this grant is that the turnover is too high. So that but the way how we design study, turnover is not going to be a problem.
Okay.
I can explain more in detail when there is time, but the short answer is turnover is not going to be a problem.
Okay, looks like you've got a summary there if you want to just summarize
So
it.
at the end, we will know more about long-term care nursing home work, so that which is, believe or not well known to technology designers that much. So the technology designers, they don't know much about the nursing home work, and then this study will create some knowledge about that. And then we will also develop guidelines that's gonna develop technologies that will improve staff wellness and the resident outcomes. And then we will definitely develop some academic publications that's gonna disseminate the knowledge that we develop in this study. But we are very careful that these publications, they're not gonna reveal any individual information, and the institutional information will be up to the institution if they want to be revealed or not.
Okay.
So there are a bunch of deliverables for research. I'm gonna skip this, but for the community, we will develop some. Again, we want to have direct impact to communities as well. We will develop some direct reports. We will provide publication or presentation. We will be happy to do presentations about our findings to settings as well. And then as academicians, we have some capacity to do some literature review and other things. We will be happy to help with the communities with other things as well. Thank you very much for your support. And if you have any questions, please let us know. And then also let us know if you like to be part of this study. And is it okay, David, if I send you the one-page write-up to be distributed to the group, so that I'm not sure?
Sure, yeah,
yeah.
Go ahead. And if you want to put your email in the
yeah,
chat,
so this is my
somebody
email address. Feel free to. And one thing I forgot to mention, sorry, I take so much time, but I'm a faculty member at University of Colorado College of Nursing, but in fact, I'm an industrial and systems engineer with a lot of experience in health informatics. That's kind of my qualifications as the PI of the study, but our study involves a bunch of MDs, nurses, and other technology people.
All right, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. I'm going to switch screens on the end there. So if you want to, Mustafa, you could put your email in the chat. You might get people clicking it and emailing you right now.
That's a great idea. Put the email and I'll contact you.
Okay. And let's see. Let me get my screen back. You guys should be seeing my screen, I hope. And so I'm going to give an update on financials, and then it's unfortunately the Dave Shepard show today, I guess, from this point on. I'm going to give you an update on financials and talk a little bit about an article that I read and try to give you kind of an update on that. Let me go to a full screen mode here. All right, you guys seeing that okay? I'll take that as a yes. So mid-year financials for CMDA. As some of you probably know, I'm the treasurer for CMDA. These are simple numbers here. Everybody hear me okay? Anyone hear me?
Yes.
We hear you.
Thank you. Yeah. So just a simple income statement, not a lot of details here, but some of the categories I thought you might be interested in, things that we track. So I left those in here. Comparison from 24 to 25. 25 obviously isn't over, so this is a mid-year comparison. But most of the transactions we have already occurred. A lot of what we do is around the conference itself. So most of our bank transactions have occurred. Our revenue this year is 76,600 compared to 50 last year. A lot of that is due to increased vendor participation in our conference. And we have Core Care to thank for that. Ian has worked with us as a consultant, and he was pretty instrumental in that. So the money we have spent for Core Care helping us has had a pretty good return on investment. Operating expenses, our general operating expenses are about 25,000, and conference-related expenses are about 20,000. And you'll see that here at the bottom, our retained earnings are about $30,000 compared to 20,000 last year. So we really have We really did bump it up this year, and it's primarily related to the increased revenue from vendor participation in the conference. So just want to thank everyone who came to the conference and everyone that worked so hard to make it happen. We had about a 50% increase in conference vendor revenue. I haven't broken apart the numbers yet, so that's kind of a back of the napkin calculation, but it's pretty close. Our conference expenses are relatively stable from year to year, which is a good thing. Again, as I mentioned, the increased use of CoreCare as a consultant really added value for us, and we appreciate everything that Ian has done for us. So we're in a position to have funds available for planning next year's conference. And we usually donate to the PulpMed Futures program as well. So we're in a pretty good financial position to be able to do both of those things at this time. Some opportunities that we've kind of recognized. We think we have quite a bit of uncaptured membership. Again, we need to parse through those numbers, and it's a little harder than it should be, but we will parsed through them. But it looks like we have a lot of people coming to the conference that aren't necessarily members, which is okay. But we would love to maybe capture those people as members. Our voice is only as loud as our membership. And so the greater our membership, the louder our voice can be. We'd like to explore some new educational opportunities and new ways to engage with membership besides the conference. We love the conference. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and hopefully it's worthwhile. But we kind of want to look for other ways to engage, whether it's through education or other avenues to add value to our members. We're also looking at possibly helping to fund some member involvement in the PulpMed Advocacy Summit on Capitol Hill. So if you have interest in that, let one of us know. And as Rebecca mentioned, we're probably going to see increased coordination between our local chapter here and the National PulpMed organization, which I think will be a good thing. Are there any questions? Nothing? Is everybody still out there? Did I put you to sleep yet? I am going to, for the last, what have we got here left? Okay, this is not going to take all the time left, so we may be able to give you some time back in your day. I am going to give a little clinical topic here about diphenhydramine. This is an article that I found, thought it was interesting. It's from the World Allergy Organization Journal. And I've tried to cater it more towards the long-term care environment. I've added a few studies in here that I think are relevant. It's about diphenhydramine, and the basic premise of the paper is that it may be time to say goodbye to diphenhydramine and to retire it. Basically, there are newer options that are safer, with fewer side effects, with better risk-benefit ratios. And the authors believe that diphenhydramine has reached the end of its life cycle. And it's probably a greater public health hazard than it is a benefit. So diphenhydramine was first approved. It was the first approved H1 antihistamine in 1946. So that was a long time ago. That was before we had very rigorous standards from the FDA as far as testing and approval. It's still commonly used. It's used in over 300 over-the-counter products. So I see it on all kinds of med lists, especially people that come in from assisted living and from home. It's not uncommon to see diphenhydramine in some form on a med list. And as you know, it's generally not recommended for use in older adults because of safety concerns. As far as pharmacology, I kind of had to remind myself what histamine does. So I started with a little review. So I've added some of that in here because I thought it was interesting and it's probably worth recognizing. Histamine it's a short-acting amine. It's synthesized in the hypothalamus, and there are histamine receptors found all over the body in a lot of tissues. There are at least 4 receptors that we know of, very cleverly named H1 through H4. And the H1, H2, and H3 receptors are found in the central nervous system. And the H1 receptor is really the target for diphenhydramine. Diphenhydramine does cross the blood-brain barrier, which is a little different than the second-generation antihistamines. Crosses the blood-brain barrier, so we see the central nervous system effects of it, as well as the effects in the rest of the body. And diphenhydramine is structurally similar to muscarinic antagonists. So it will cross-react on muscarinic acetylcholine receptors, and that's why we see the anticholinergic side effects. Quite a bit of information on here. Really, we're going to focus on, again, the H1 receptors, which is the target for diphenhydramine. And those receptors are found in quite a few different places, and found in neurons, smooth muscles, airway cells, blood vessels. It is the receptor that seems to be involved in anaphylactic reactions that we're all familiar with: vasodilation, vascular permeability increase, hypotension, bronchoconstriction. This receptor also helps regulate sleep-wake cycles, food intake, emotions, aggressive behaviors, memory. Just to be complete here, the H2 receptors we're familiar with in the gastric mucosa. It's the site of action of most of the H2 blockers we use, like famotidine. It's also found in smooth muscle cells in the heart. H3 receptors are the histaminergic neurons. It regulates histamine release, so there's some auto-regulation going on there. Also helps regulate dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline, acetylcholine, all in the central nervous system. And there is a specific H3 antagonist or inverse agonist that's approved for narcolepsy. Pitolisant, hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm not familiar with it. I've never used it, but it's one of the few non-H1 receptor or non-H2 receptor drugs that we have. H4 receptors really play an immune modulatory role. This is something I really wasn't familiar with, but it is found in the bone marrow and the peripheral hematopoietic cells. It is thought to be involved in inflammatory and autoimmune disorders, and seems to play a role in differentiation of various immune cells, including T cells, B cells, myeloblasts, and things like that. Interestingly, the H4 receptor may be part of what is being mediated in the neutropenia we see with the antipsychotic clozapine. And the diphenhydramine side effects, this is really kind of what the issue is with diphenhydramine, is all of the side effects. And we should probably recognize that it blocks H1 receptors in the CNS, so it's got a direct effect on the CNS. And it also has this secondary effect because of its cross-reactivity with other receptors, particularly the muscarinic acetylcholine receptors, which is what leads to the anticholinergic activity that we see, and really the reason that it's on the Beers list. So we see an increased risk for delirium, cognitive impairment, falls, and fractures. And because it's anticholinergic, there's studies showing that anticholinergic burden and increased anticholinergic burden puts you at risk for dementia as well. This is just a graphic outlining some of the things we just talked about as far as side effects: the drowsiness, hallucinations, cognitive impairment. Important to remember urinary retention, constipation, tachycardia. We can see all of those things as well with diphenhydramine. The pharmacology of diphenhydramine, I think probably the most important takeaway from this is that it can have a long half-life in the elderly, up to 18 hours, which is a long time. And if you're taking it daily, you may see accumulation of the drug and hangovers and the next day effects. And with accumulation of it, because of the long half-life, you may see an increase in side effects. As I mentioned before, that really the issue is the anticholinergic load. So polypharmacy is kind of an issue, right? The more medications that have an anticholinergic load, the more additive that issue is and the more side effects, especially central nervous system side effects, we can see. This is a hospital-based study on elderly patients looking at the cognitive and other adverse effects of diphenhydramine. And basically, they found that it resulted in a cognitive decline, behavioral disturbances, and initiation of bladder catheterizations. And I put this in here because of this table, which I thought was pretty telling and enlightening. On the left side, you have a number of outcomes or side effects, however you want to look at them. And on the right side, I've highlighted the relative risk of each one of these things. And these are pretty good relative risks. Delirium, 1.7 relative risk. Disorganized speech, 5.5. Behavioral disturbances, relative risk of 5.6. And that's with a p-value of less than 0.05. So there's definitely some signal here. And this is kind of a good overview of concerns that we may have if we're going to use diphenhydramine in our older population. Because of all the potential side effects and CNS effects, falls are a concern. And this initial study here, I don't think it was specific to the elderly. It was an increased risk of serious injury following initiation of either diphenhydramine or loratadine. And they found that the percentage of injuries attributable to diphenhydramine was about 55%, which is pretty significant. It's a retrospective study, so there are some potential issues with that, but there's definitely a signal there, right?
Erica?
The second study is antihistamine use and the risk of falls or fracture in the elderly. And this was a meta-analysis of observational studies. And it found that first-generation antihistamines showed an increased risk of falls or fracture with an odds ratio of 2.03. And if you took all antihistamines, first generation, second generation, all of those together had a fall and fracture risk with an odds ratio of about 2.89. So those are significant numbers. Relative contraindications, really, these are comorbidities that we see in a lot of our patients. So there probably is a relative contraindication to Benadryl or diphenhydramine use in most of the people in long-term care. Age over 65, according to the Beers list, narrow angle glaucoma, BPH, urine retention, confusion, constipation, repeated falls, dementia. All of these are at least relative contraindications, if not full-on contraindications for some patients. So as far as utilization in the elderly, the risk-benefit ratio is just unfavorable, in my opinion. But we still see it used, both in the outpatient world and in long-term care. And that's primarily because it's one of those situations where people are familiar with it. And because of familiarity, they feel like it's safe. We have all had patients and family members tell us, you know, mom has been taking Benadryl for 20 years to help her sleep. And that may be true, but as our physiology changes over time, the safety of that medication will change as well. So we probably need to counsel our family and our patients about the use of diphenhydramine for various diagnoses and see if there are safer alternatives. Other countries, such as Germany and the Netherlands, have actually gone so far as to making diphenhydramine by prescription only. So there are safer alternatives, right? The second generation antihistamines like cetirizine, loratadine, and fexofenadine are definitely options. Fexofenadine, I think, is the safest of the options. It has the fewest CNS effects. Most of these, they don't cross the blood-brain barrier. If they do, it's in minuscule amounts, but you still can see some potential sedation, especially from cetirizine. I think cetirizine is a derivative of Benadryl. I believe it was one of the active metabolites is how it was discovered. So you may still see a little bit of sedation with that one. But overall, the second generation options are much safer, much cleaner drugs. and they're once daily dosing. So that's an advantage as well. The European Union has put diphenhydramine on the do not drive list. So that means you're not supposed to use it before you drive. And the FAA has told pilots that that they're not supposed to be using Benadryl before they fly. There is at least one study showing that comparing placebo to Benadryl and alcohol that showed driving while on diphenhydramine was more dangerous and impaired you more than alcohol did. Now, obviously, that's probably dose dependent. If you drink enough, driving certainly is going to be less safe than Benadryl, but it just shows you that it is a significant impairment to our attention, to our mentation, to our ability to focus. The Canadians have moved Benadryl behind the counter only, similar to what we did with Sudafed here in the United States. And so in general, I think it's probably time to consider not using this medication or using it selectively for sure. We probably need to counsel our patients and our families about the use of diphenhydramine in over-the-counter products. And we can always, talk to our pharmacists about other options, or maybe even have them help us with counseling on the use of diphenhydramine. So the bottom line is, I think it probably is time to retire diphenhydramine from geriatric practice. As with all drugs, there's going to be a time and a place for it, right? But I think the time and the place for diphenhydramine has pretty much gone at this point. There are definitely better options. And this is an article that I think Dr. Eber sent this out to us. And it's a pretty good article outlining some of the alternative treatments to medications that are listed on the Beers list. So this is definitely worth a read. And there are at least 3 mentions of diphenhydramine in this article for insomnia, urticaria, and anxiety. And it outlines some safer alternatives that you can consider instead of diphenhydramine. And okay, I believe that is all I have for that component. Are there any questions, comments, thoughts, concerns about anything today?
Hey, Dave, this is Greg.
Yep.
Nice presentation. The only thing I was going to add is that anticholinergic sort of antihistamine effects are additive, and lots of drugs have those anticholinergic side effects. So it's not just individual drugs have this much effect, and so what? The more drugs you use with those, there's a thing called the Magellan Anticholinergic Risk Score that you can use as a reference. And certainly Benadryl's right up there with Atarax and a few other things as a high risk. But nice work.
Yeah, I mean, even things like Lasix have an anticholinergic burden, and it's hard to recognize. Basically, all meds do. It'd probably be easier to find the ones that don't than it would be, or the ones that are clean than it would be to know them all. Any other questions?
Are you seeing increased use of hydroxyzine being prescribed for anxiety? People thinking, oh, it's sort of in the same category, must not be that bad.
Yeah, I do. I see that used a lot. Really, diphenhydramine, any first generation, H1 antagonist, I see mostly used for anxiety and for sleep. And as far as sleep goes, if you look at the data on diphenhydramine, it does put you to sleep a little faster. It helps reduce nighttime awakenings, but it doesn't seem to really affect sleep duration. And with all the side effects and other issues involved with it, it just wouldn't seem like the risk-benefit ratio is there for me. I'm not a big melatonin fan, but it probably is safer if you want to try something like that. I think the article with the alternative treatments outlines Ramelteon and orexin inhibitors. which I haven't had a lot of experience with orexin inhibitors, but I have started to see them used more, and I think they may be a safer option as well. As far as anxiety goes, this is just a dirty drug, and you're hitting all kinds of CNS receptors, honestly. So while it may be effective, it is certainly not a targeted therapy for anxiety, and I would really worry about all the side effects and the falls and all of the other unintended consequences. Anybody else with any thoughts on that? Is there anyone left? Has everyone left already? So I think we're about, I don't know, 10 minutes early. Anyone opposed to ending things early and giving you a few minutes back out of your day?
Sounds good. Thanks for the great presentation.
All right, thanks, guys. We'll get this stuff up on the website if you are interested in the study and you can't get a hold of Mustafa, let us know and we will connect you guys, okay? All right, thank you very much. Everybody have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.